Hey y'all, this is Brown at I have Brown, and I want to talk a little bit about something. So, before I get into it, let me just preface this by saying that I'm not speaking as an expert on the matter, but I'm just speaking as an average Joe, and as a small-time, YouTube content creator. So, okay, YouTube is something that I've been a part of, in one way or another since, 2014. I first, made an account in 2014, but it was, 2020 when I, made my first video, and it was a review of, season one of Airwolf. So, really takes me back, right? Um, but I've been like a viewer of YouTube since like the early 2000s. Watching music videos, watching old cartoons, cool action scenes, things like that, or whatever. That's one of the cool things about YouTube that I kind of came to really appreciate was that you can find all sorts of stuff, and if you had an account, you could just put yourself out there. You could talk about Lord knows how many things under the sun, or you could actually create stuff and show it off. And so it was a place for people to have an outlet for their passions. And so over time, though, I've just been noticing some things like, as it's become bigger, you have, things come up like, say, you know, certain things that are censored that you're like, well, wait a minute, if you're free to, drop an F bomb, then why are you, censoring, certain subject matter as far as like, say, the discussion of certain, subject matter, things like that. And and, and also, of course, the thing that annoys us all, I'm sure, but how videos that we used to watch are now, being interrupted by ads every 5 minutes. Depending on what video it is you're watching, like if it's a long video or, what have you. But anyway, though, no, I just, yeah, it's not the YouTube that I remember it being. Like, if I'm not, say, really reading between the lines, I mean, I can, kind of pretend that it's the YouTube that, I knew and loved, Um, and I should say that, like, when I made my first video and started, putting out content, doing reviews, talk about movies, books, comic books, occasional TV show. I was thinking that I'd be lucky if I had, maybe 5 subscribers, but, now I've got, just a little over 100. So, that's more than I ever, thought I'd have. So I'm very thankful. I'm very, thankful that, those of you who, tune in on the regular, I really appreciate y'all. I appreciate the fact that there are people who, you know, like, what I have to offer as far as, say, like my perspective on, books, movies, comic books, and things like that. It's an outlet. It really is, because I love talking about that stuff. And I understand that, people outside of YouTube, like people in the real world, I mean, not everyone's going to be as into something as I am, and that's just life, but having a YouTube channel and getting to actually talk about the stuff I'm passionate about really gives me an outlet, and I'm very grateful for that. And I'm grateful for the people who you know tune in and check out my stuff. So thank you for being there, all of you. But something else that's come up, though, is that um, a lot of YouTube channels are being removed. And I've heard about people who have, say, thousands of subscribers, you know and who are monetized, suddenly being removed, like having their channels and their content removed. And I've heard of small time YouTube content creators having their channels removed too. And I've heard a multitude of reasons from, say watching some videos, about what's going on, and also just, talking with people and, listening to what they have to say. And so, I mean, it sounds like it could be it sounds like it's more than one thing. I mean, for example, I mean, I've heard that it's, the YouTube staff, being overly reliant on AI, and AI is going overboard in censoring people. And, depending on what the violations are, I mean, it could be something like they hear a sound in the background that they misconstrue as, something, objectionable or something, according to, the rules of regulations of YouTube, and then boom, you strike, and then you're removed, and stuff like that. I've heard about stuff like that happening. But then I've also heard about, people having their channels removed with no explanation whatsoever, just some vague statement, that sounds rehearsed and canned. Um, and apparently, the people who actually work at YouTube, I mean, they released, a couple of statements, and one of them was something along the lines of, basically they're trying to concentrate on removing, you know, scammer channels, like, I guess, fake channels. Uh, I don't know. Take that one with a grain of salt, because I mean, if they're removing scammer channels, a lot of, real creators are, having, their content removed as well. And, people who are actually, real people and making real content, whether, it's great or small. I mean, they're making stuff. They're, even if it's just them talking about, I don't know, guacamole. I don't know. But I mean, I've heard about, a couple of people who, their YouTube channels, consists of them, you know, showing people how to cook something. Well, their channels are gone all of a sudden. And so, um, and the other reason I heard, though, and this one is most concerning to me. I mean, it's all concerning to me, but um, what's most concerning, though, is, whoever it is that owns YouTube now, is wanting to change YouTube and reformat it to where they're wanting to make it the next Netflix, because they have their heart set on courting Hollywood. And so basically, they don't give a crap about, the people who are, you know, making, the content that goes towards, making YouTube what it is. And YouTube, when it started out and for a long time afterwards, was a place where people could just put themselves out there, and, they could film themselves, talking about something, trivial, but that they were passionate about, or they could film themselves creating something that they're passionate about. And sometimes, I mean, you can even, learn about stuff. I mean, like, legitimately learn about something, that, you probably get, more information from a YouTube video than, say, the mainstream media, things like that. Um, but apparently, it the people who are in charge of YouTube now don't care about that. I mean, they just, care about, going all Hollywood, it sounds like. And, you know, I don't know what's going to happen in the future. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, but I mean, if they go through with this, if there, it sounds like there's some truth to this. I mean, I don't know enough about it all to say that this is the reason, but I'm pretty sure it's one of the reasons, though, because it sounds like something that a corporate bigwig would do. I mean, how many, times have you heard about, say, a big corporation, you know, buying, some form of something that, in some way involved entertainment, or entertainment was a big part of it, and then suddenly, you know, they turned the whole thing upside down. I mean, Disney, Star Wars, I'm looking at you. I mean, things like that. But or Disney and Marvel. Uh, I mean, I know opinions vary, but I mean, you have to admit, I mean, compared to what Star Wars used to be versus what it is now, yeah, Disney did more harm than good. And you can quote me on that. But going back to just YouTube in general, okay? Um, those examples of, Disney, putting its, head where it doesn't belong. I mean, this whoever it is that's in charge of YouTube, it sounds like they're going to put their head where it doesn't belong. I mean, because YouTube one is made up of people who are content creators, and content could be anything. But the point is they're putting themselves out there. They're taking time and putting forth effort to create something, whether it be grand or small. And the people who are in charge of YouTube unfortunately don't seem to care about that, when that was what made YouTube great. I mean, and it sounds like the people that are in charge of YouTube, I mean, big surprise, all they care about is more money. And it pisses me off that that's what it comes down to. I mean, in so many you know things. I mean, so many you know aspects of life. It all just comes down to money. I mean, look at the healthcare system. Uh, another example, involving healthcare could be. I mean, there have apparently been people who have made significant progress in creating, like, treatments or possibly cures to certain diseases, but the healthcare industry doesn't want a cure or a treatment that could actually do some good, because they lose money, and um yeah, they'd rather make more money than help people. I'm not saying like the healthcare industry as a whole, but I'm just talking about like mainly the movers and shakers, the people who are lining their pockets. And so it sounds like it's that same type of mentality is what makes up, you know, those who are in charge of YouTube right now, like the people who are pushing for YouTube to be reformatted into the next Netflix so they could, walk the streets of Hollywood. And I was talking to someone, a little bit ago about all this, and they pointed out that, yeah, I mean, they might get what they want. I mean, unfortunately, people with a lot of money do, but it could be something that comes back to bite them in the ass, because, I mean, yeah, they changed YouTube to be the next Netflix, but then they start losing, subscribers. They start losing an audience because, of the fact that they've removed so many people who were content creators. And, once people see that, they could very well be like, no, we don't want to be a part of this. I mean, why would we want to be a part of you know something that screws over the people that made it successful in the first place? Um, and that's just, I know I'm just talking about hypotheticals here, but that very well could happen. Um, and it made me think of something that happened in real life, in my life. A few More than a few years ago now, there was a movie train company that was near where I live, and I was a regular there. I mean, I love movies, so you put a movie train company near me, I'm gonna go in, even if I don't buy something every single time. I mean, I'm gonna go in and just look around, because I mean, it's kind of like going back to Blockbuster for me, and it's like a home away from home. Just there were so many times where back when I was working at my old job, like, say if it was a stressful day, in the evening I'd get off work, and instead of going home, I'd go to a movie train company for a little while and just sort of recharge, relax, for a bit, and just walk around and take in the creative energies, I guess you could call it, of cinema. but but yeah, I mean, I like the place. What can I say? Um, but but then one day though, I'm told, I'm told that the day that I'm there, it's the last day that that movie train company is going to be open, and I'm like, wait, what? And I'm like, why? I mean, because a good amount of the times that I went to that movie train company, it was packed, and especially on the weekends. And so the people that worked there, I mean, when I was asking them about it, they more or less said that they were one of the top selling stores in their district, and they were doing very well. Excuse me, they were doing very well sales wise, and so I wasn't seeing things, and so they were able to they confirmed that. It's like, no, we were busy. I mean, we're always doing well, but unfortunately though, the property owner um, had their heart dead set on putting an animal hospital or animal clinic, you know, in that area. And apparently they wanted that building. They wanted the building that the movie train company was at. And so basically they, kept on raising the rent. And so even though the movie train company was doing well, even though they were, making a lot of sales, enough to say be regarded as, one of the best stores in the district, they were struggling to keep up, until one day the owner just raised the rent, so high that they weren't going to be able to keep up anymore. And so all because, the owner, wanted to put an animal, clinic there. Okay. And so sadly, that movie train company is no longer there. And the animal clinic was there for a time, but it did not last long. In fact, I mean, I think I'm trying to remember if it lasted a year or less than a year, but if it was a year or more, it wasn't much beyond a year, if I remember correctly. I mean, like at most it was probably there, for 2 years, if I remember correctly. But last time I went by the place, I saw like a, for lease sign on it. So I guess the joke's on the property owner. And so, if they had just left well enough alone, then they would have still had a thriving business, most likely. Because, I mean, someone pointed out that there were a lot of animal clinics in the area. And so, but there was only one movie train company that was right there, and people just flocked to it. And so, if they had just left well enough alone, then they might have had, a place that continued to thrive, that continued to bring people in, versus say, an animal, clinic that barely anyone went to, apparently. So there you go. So no, I know these are two different situations, but it made me think of that though. It just, the fact that, the owner of the property, they wanted what they wanted. They didn't care about the fact that, they had something that was making money, but that was also incidentally bringing a lot of joy to people. I mean, as the consistent, amount of customers, would attest to, um, and you can kind of compare it to, the situation with YouTube. I mean, the corporate bigwigs at the top, or maybe it's a bigwig, but whoever's in charge of YouTube, I mean, they apparently have their heart dead set on, going Hollywood, and they don't care about the fact that, by doing so, they're going to, lose a lot of the people that made YouTube what it is. And so, yeah, it just, finding this stuff out, just kind of pissed me off. I mean, I know there are worse things going on in the world right now, believe me, but if you've watched my channel, or even if you're just listening to me now for the first time, I mean, you could probably, pick up on the fact that, I'm passionate about movies. I'm passionate about books, comic books, and things like that. I love talking about that stuff. I mean, I freely admit I don't know everything, but I love talking about that stuff. And so the possibility that one could lose their creative outlet for, talking about something that they're passionate about. I mean, just because, whoever's running the show wants more money. I don't know. It always comes down to money, and it just, dude, just let things breathe, man. I mean, you know, whoever you are, whoever's running the show, I mean, you already have a boatload of money. I mean, you could probably retire, you know, 2 times over by now, I'm sure. You know, so just leave it alone. You know, let things breathe. You know, let people, you know, make what they want to make, you know. And I'm not saying we all have to like each other's stuff, but you know, at the same time, you know, everyone, you know, has, you know, should have the right to try and put themselves out there. You know, whether and you know whether they end up being, you know, big time or they're still small time. I mean, they're a content creator, you know, and they're taking a chance. I mean, at sharing themselves, you know, sharing at, you know, what their passions are or what they're passionate about, you know. So whoever's in charge, just, you know, let it breathe. You know, don't ruin it. Don't destroy it. You know, because you're going to, you know, in your pursuit of money, you're going to alienate a lot of people. So, uh, and if you do, and yeah, you might not care about that in the moment, but it's going to bite you in the ass. I mean, if you go through with it, I guarantee it. So, anyway, yeah, I know I'm sorry, I'm a little all over the place, but uh, I guess I just wanted to say something about all that. And, you know, if you got something from it, awesome. And if you didn't, but you listened anyway, uh, thank you for listening to me ramble. But I do hope that you were able to get something out of it, you know, those of you who took the time to listen to this. So, um, but yeah, thank you for watching this video. Thanks for tuning in. And sorry if this was, you know, all over the place, but um, you know, the thoughts. I guess it's. I like to think it's a thought that counts, or thoughts that count. But y'all have a good night. Take care. Bye.